The Legend of the Great Siege, Chapter 1. Early morning. The area near the border of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Ottoman Empire. The sun had barely begun to rise, and the mist still wrapped the earth. 3 figures on horseback moved swiftly through the grassy hills. Adam and Wojciech, the younger scouts, rode side by side, while the older scout Janek kept a bit behind, vigilantly scanning the surroundings. The king is a fat pig and blind to boot. The Ottomans could crawl under his blanket, and he'd still think it's just some ugly wench, Adam hissed. Wojciech snorted with laughter. We're out here in this wasteland, risking our necks, our asses numb from sitting in the saddle, and we've got a leader who snivels and sees conspiracies everywhere. He probably thinks we're plotting something at every roadside. But it's not fair. We have every right to be angry. Especially when we see everything going to ruin, Adam continued. Yeah, and I keep wondering if that king of ours deserves our sacrifice. We're here day by day, and he's probably off boasting about some new success, Wojciech added. Janek shrugged and pulled out a wineskin, which he offered to the younger men. Nothing soothes the nerves like wine. Instead of wasting breath, drink this. It's Tokaji, strong as the devil. Tastes like paradise. The younger scout's eyes gleamed at the sight of the wineskin dangling from Janek's hand, and they licked their parched lips. Jan Sandomierski. Adam grasped the drink with delight. I don't ask how you got such a treat here, but know that it's easier to find a virgin in a brothel than to taste Tokaji wine in this wilderness. Here's to your health. He took a hearty swig, wiped his mouth on his sleeve, and handed it to Wojciech. May you live long, my friend. Wojciech endorsed his words with a nod, then drank with reverence. Janek took back the wineskin and did the same. They were silent for a moment, letting the warmth of the drink spread through their bellies. The day had just become a little better than the previous one for all 3, which was important, especially in such a place. Remember, Jan finally spoke, we don't have the luxury to complain. Let's survive today, then the next. Let's deal with what's at hand, because it's the only way we can endure. Let's move. With these words, the older scout spurred his horse forward, leaving the surprised pair behind. Adam and Wojciech exchanged glances. Perhaps they saw the sense in Jan's words, or perhaps the wine made an impression on them, but they decided not to broach political topics today. Wojciech rose slightly in his stirrups, urging his horse to a quicker pace. Adam gave his horse a nudge, and it broke into a gallop. They let the wind cool their emotions. They rode at a faster pace for a brief moment, but soon transitioned to a walk to avoid overexerting the horses. The sun rose higher as they reached the edge of the forest. The scouts were vigilant, scanning for any signs of impending danger. Suddenly, Adam halted his horse, raising his hand to stop Wojciech and Janek. Look, he whispered, pointing to the forest on the right. Deer were darting out of the thicket, leaping over bushes with unusual urgency. Behind them, a herd of does sprinted in panic, disappearing into the tall grass. Something scared them, Janek murmured, squinting in the direction the animals had fled. Wild animals don't react like that without a reason. Wojciech rose slightly in his stirrups, listening intently. A faint rustling filled the air like the flapping of hundreds of wings. Suddenly, a flock of crows burst from the treetops, circling above the forest in a frantic dance. The birds are scared too, Wojciech noted. This doesn't bode well. Adam nodded, staring into the thicket. We need to stay alert. Something is coming. Let's climb that hill, Janek suggested, moving forward. We'll have a better view from there. The scouts directed their horses towards the nearby hill. Riding carefully to avoid making too much noise, they ascended to the top. They tied their horses to the trunk of a fallen tree at the base of the hill, ensuring the animals would stay put. Then they cautiously climbed to the summit, careful not to reveal their presence. Reaching the top, Adam shaded his eyes from the sun with his hand and scanned the horizon. In the distance, they saw the outline of the Ottoman army. The sight was terrifying. Countless ranks of soldiers moving like a rolling sea filled the landscape. "By God," Adam said quietly, pointing to the plumes of smoke rising into the sky. "The Ottomans are close." Janek, the oldest and most experienced among them, gazed at the army with concern. He had spent years on battlefields in his youth and had learned to assess enemy numbers from a distance. Wojciech, younger and less experienced, also tried to gauge the size of the army. "There are thousands of them," Janek whispered, analyzing the military formations and recognizing various units: cavalry, infantry, and artillery. "This isn't just a detachment, it's an entire army." A cold sweat ran down Adam's back. He knew Janek wasn't exaggerating. The scouts had learned these skills through years of training and experience. Recognizing units, estimating troop numbers. This was their daily routine, but the sight of such a powerful army filled them with fear. "We need to return and warn the garrison." "We have no time to lose," Janek said, pulling out a map and marking the enemy's position. Wojciech, still observing the area, confirmed, "Let's move. Every moment is precious now." They turned, hearts pounding faster with each step. They knew the approaching threat was immense and that they had to act quickly to prepare Kamieniec's defenses. When they reached the bottom and mounted their horses, John said gravely, "We must reach the outpost as quickly as possible and report. The enemy army is close enough that we might encounter their scouts. We do not engage unless we have no other choice. If one of us gets injured or detained," he looked at his companions sternly, "under no circumstances do we stop. If necessary, we'll split up. We do not go back for our own. This information is more valuable than our miserable lives. Time is crucial for the fortress, and only we can buy it now. Is that clear?" There was a brief silence. Deep down they knew it had to be this way. They nodded in agreement. Then, onward. For the Commonwealth. For Kamieniec. "Even if 100 wenches spread their legs," Jan continued, "we do not stop." And they rode towards the outpost. They raced ahead as if pursued by Lucifer himself. Adam kept thinking about the Ottoman invaders. Until now, he believed Kamieniec Podolski to be an impregnable castle. He had never seen a fortress as impenetrable, but today he had to admit that against such a force, the threat was deadly. He glanced at Wojciech. He was pale. Hopefully it wouldn't come to one of them having to die today. Instinctively, he looked back to make sure they weren't being chased. "Courage, coward," he scolded himself inwardly. He leaned forward and focused on the road to the outpost. Thank you for listening to Chapter 1 of The Legend of the Great Siege. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next chapter. Your support means a lot and helps me create more content. Stay tuned for more adventures.